The most important data you need to know about for this week. All right, so let's talk about economic data from the past week and what we got. So we know that the Fed is talking a lot about the job market, right? At Jackson Hole, one of the things that I took away from it that I saw that they were really reiterating that they haven't talked a lot about was the fact that they are willing to wait longer to make a decision based on the last rate cut or rate hike to see how it plays out, right? Because they're saying it takes a little bit longer than we thought to see the realization, right? Like we might make a hike and we might not see the effects of it for 2 to 3 months, so we don't want to jump to conclusions. Now, they think that they're still probably going to raise rates, but the one thing is they're talking about the labor market, right? Because here's the idea. Inflation is going down. Okay, inflation's going down. But true inflation, not, because the way that we already talked about this, the way that they are counting things towards inflation, they're just changing it around, right? Like we talked about it, and I looked into it, right? Like, for example, if you say steak, right, is an average of, $9.99 a pound, and then the next month, steak could be $13.99 a pound overall. But if you're taking a sirloin could have gone from $7.99 a pound to $10.99 a pound. And if you're using that to count, then you know what I'm saying? Instead of the New York strip or whatever that's $17.99 a pound, whatever, you could just change those things around. They do it all the time, right? It's kind of like with insurance companies. Insurance companies fuck you all the time because you don't listen. Like when I did that insurance video where I told you guys, take a video. If you live in a home, you own a home, or if you own an apartment or rent an apartment, you have insurance, take your phone one day and walk around your apartment and walk up to every major expensive item and just get it captured for half a second. And then walk around, have everything on camera. If there's like a storage area, move through it and just have it there. Because if the house burns down, your insurance company will do everything they can to fuck you. You claim a 75-inch TV. Okay, what make and model was it? Well, if you didn't keep the receipts for it and there's no proof of it, they'll be like, okay, a 75-inch TV. And they're required to do a like and kind. You might have a $1,299 TV, but they're going to go get you a fucking Vizio that costs $399 because it's 75 inches and it's a TV. Like and kind. But if you have video proof that it was this one, then guess what? You're more likely to get closer to that payout. That can happen every single thing in your apartment or your house. Okay? So one of the easiest things you can do that you could do right now if you wanted to is get up, turn your phone on, start in a corner of a room, and just don't even have to talk. Just walk around, film everything that you own, go into the bathroom, go into the closet, go into the other rooms, do whatever you got to do, and have that video. That could be the difference between 50,000 and 500,000. I don't know. They don't shop for you. They just cut you a check. Yeah, but they're going to cut you a check based on the lowest like and kind if you don't have proof of what it is. Okay? I'm already in the closet. Well, the perfect time to come out of it. Who has a $500,000 TV? No, I said all the things in your house. Oh my God. Moving on. Okay. So we know that inflation, I'm going to lose track and I can't stay because the nanny's got to leave for her dog's hemorrhoids. So we know that inflation and those numbers are getting messed with, right? But one thing that we do know is that inflation is less likely to come down overall because you might have inflation coming down in electronics because nobody's buying them, but the inflation in airline tickets, cruises, and hotels is up because people with money are still spending it. Food is, that's why we talk about core PCE or core CPI, because core inflation, you take out food, shelter, and energy because that's like a necessity. So we talk about like the rest of it, which is consumer spending, okay? Well, let's think about that for a minute. What would cause people to continue to spend money? Earning more money. And if the job market is tight, and these businesses have all these openings and they're trying to fill it, they will continue to raise the salaries to entice the qualified workers to come work for them or leave one company for another. And that drives up salaries, Okay, not for the people down here, but for these people. And as salaries drive up, people have more disposable income. People continue to spend. People buy houses and cars and do things because people just are done with their money, and it keeps prices up. So the Fed is like, okay, we need to do something about this. We need this market. We need this market to chill the fuck out. All right, we need this labor market to chill. And raising these rates makes it more expensive for businesses to borrow money, to expand and to grow and to pay payroll. They're going to have to start cutting jobs. They're going to have to start cutting spending. People are going to be it's going to be more expensive for them to take out mortgages and cars and credit cards. They're going to stop spending. So we can do something about that. So if we can't stop people from spending, we stop them from making. That's the theory, right? Well, that hasn't been happening. However, this week, here was the data, the most important data. I got the title for the next YouTube video. I don't know. I'm just kidding. I don't know. The most important data you need to know about for this week. Okay. Number one, your home price index. Your home price index. Okay. Average cost of a house or medium cost of a house. Well, guess what? It went down 1.2%. Not as much as expected, which was down 1.5%, and not as much as last month, which was 1.7%. That's based off of 20 cities, but just to give you an idea. However, before you get excited, remember, you're coming down from here. So you're like, it's not like 1.2% from where it was before. It's up from, it's up 50%. So it takes a while to come down. So that was down. Okay. Job openings. This was the big one of the week. Job openings. When the fuck did a D get in there? I guess a joke there. Okay. Down big time. So this was down 1.2%. Job openings. Job openings came in at 8.8 million. This might sound like a lot, and it is. But it wasn't long ago we were getting the report of 10 million openings each month. They were expecting 9.5 million. That means month over month there were 700,000 less available openings than there were from expectations. That's big. That means employers and that means businesses are hiring less people. They're closing up loopholes, they're closing up positions, or they're not hiring as much anymore. Less hiring, less openings means less competition, means less wage increases, right? Which is what the Fed wants to see. We also saw consumer confidence. That means your guys' people that buy stuff, confidence in the economy, drop from 116 expectations to 106. What does that mean in layman's terms? People are starting to get worried. People are worried. They tend to spend less. They tend to save more. They tend to start, hoarding stuff. Now, 106 is still really high. Okay. This was just on Tuesday. So let's move to Wednesday. This is not a FUD session. This is what's going to happen. This means what's going to happen. I'm just giving you the numbers and what it can often be interpreted as. Wednesday, we had ADP employment, right? ADP, most of you guys that used to get paychecks, I don't know how much they are in everywhere, but it used to be the guys on your paycheck, right? So they get all that data as well. They can tell us how many jobs are there. Now, they did change the way ADP employment was counted recently, but let's just talk about this. ADP employment, jobs, right? How many jobs were created or added or people that went back to work? Last report, right? ADP employment. All right. Last month, we had this crazy spike out of nowhere of 371,000 jobs added. They were expecting a cool down to 200K. Came in at 177K. Not as many hires. So if you had that big job opening drop, but it wasn't filled by hires, that means those jobs just disappeared. That's a sign of a cooling labor market, right? That means that it's not so hot. It means that people aren't so desperate to get employees and to grow. The next one was your GDP revision. Now, revisions are the biggest bullshit I've ever seen because we don't get access to how these numbers are counted, and they could give you any number and then come back and be like, well, actually it was this much, higher or lower. So if you're in the middle of for example, if you're in the middle of going into a recession, you can say, oh, GDP's at 0.1, and then later on you're like, actually it was negative 0.1, but we had to revise it down because we got better numbers. Well, truth is, if you would have given us a negative number, we would have been in a technical recession. That's what happened 2 years ago. But GDP was revised. Big growth. Now, they've already said that they expect GDP to grow to be close to 3% growth by end of year. And we thought we were going to get there, but they just revised the GDP from 2.4% growth down to 2.1% growth. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but 0.3% on trillions of dollars, that's a lot of difference in GDP. Now, obviously, some of that's revised down because they have to look at dollar conversions through that month, and they have to look at import exports and deficits and spending and stuff, but whatever. That was revised down. That's about 15% difference. Okay? And then 3 more pieces of interesting news that came out on Wednesday. I should do this every Friday. Okay? Okay? Then came the rest on Wednesday. And 2 big pieces of news that a lot of people don't look at, and that is advanced retail inventories. So advanced, so basically their projections, right? Retail and wholesale inventories. Now, retail inventories actually came in at 0.3%. That's actually pretty positive. Now, you don't want retail inventories to be too low if you want inflation to go down, but you don't want them too high because think about it. Why do inventories matter? Think about it. The more inventory a business has, let's say it's on the shelves and in their back rooms, what does that mean? Means nobody's buying shit. So if your inventories are super high, it means that you're not selling a bunch of stuff. Now, you don't want your inventories too low because then it jacks the price up. But if inventories are too high, while it might lower the prices, which you would think would help in inflation, it can also be a sign of slowing. But that's why there's a difference between retail and wholesale. This is the key, okay? Retail is what's on the shelves. Wholesale is what's in the back. It's more complicated than that, but just think about that, right? Like things that are in warehouses, things that are stored, okay? Wholesale inventories were down as well. They were actually negative. So that means people are still buying. But at the same time, you could get a little bit of a glut or a little bit of a backlog if you don't get that trade in goods, that import export at the same levels. Okay? Now, there will be people in the comments of this that will say, I've seen the videos coming out of San Francisco. I saw the Home Depot video, Target video. I know why their inventories are down, Stocky. You're just afraid to say it, ain't you? No, chill the fuck out, okay? All right, and then pending home sales came in. And we saw pending home sales, by the way, come in at 0.9% up, as opposed to a 0.5% expected decrease. However, once again, this is based on mostly new homes. We did see mortgage applications move up this week, just because the rates have been steady. Prices have been down a little bit. And I tweeted this out yesterday. Guys, we are 3 straight weeks with mortgage rates above 7.2% for the first time since 2002. Okay? All right, we're almost through. Who's buying at 7%? People who are worried that it's not going to go down or it's going to go to 8%. Then let's move to Thursday, yesterday. The data that came out. This is your, remember guys, this is your everything you need to know about the economy this week, okay? It's a good weekly segment. I'm just stealing other people's content. Well, it's not content. I'm just giving you numbers and explaining it in the stocky way, but whatever. All right, so initial jobless claims. This is where it's going to get a little bit wild for you. I'm just trying to explain to you how it can be interpreted. Remember, it's weekly basis, monthly basis, guys, so it changes. It doesn't one report doesn't necessarily mean a trend, but just keep it in mind, okay? Okay? Initial jobless claims came in at 228,000 versus 235,000 expected. That means we had a 7,000 less initial jobless claims. That means 7,000 people less filed for jobless claims, unemployment, lost job benefits than the week before. This is about the same number we had pre-COVID. There was a time during COVID, this was 2.5 million per week. Remember that in the beginning of COVID, guys? All right. So we saw personal income. This was a big one. Remember we talked about the spending and how as a job market's strong and they're incentivizing people by paying them more money, people are making more money, they're spending more money, driving inflation, whatever. Personal income came in with an increase of 0.2%, down from a 0.3% previous and expected, meaning that 50% lower in personal income. So people were making less money overall. Still an increase, but a less of an increase. Well, I didn't see it, Stocky. Well, then you're not one of the people that are in that incentivized thing. Remember, some of the lower levels at like Costco, McDonald's, those kind of places, retail, they had a huge jump during COVID from like $9 an hour to $15 an hour, but they're not going to be raising anymore, and some of them are offering it lower again because they don't have to incentivize again. Remember the job opening things that we talked about? But here was the thing. People earning less, but personal spending, on the other hand, increased by 0.8%. Versus the 0.7% expected. So people are making less but spending more. Any data on higher end consumer? Oh yeah. Look at all the earnings. Every we've already played we played retail earnings season masterfully. Big box stores have all been getting hit. But discount stores and luxury retail and niche brands doing fucking great. Bro, what the fuck's NVAX is 845? Well, good. That means we're up 5% from yesterday's buy. Remember, rich people will always make more money. Even if they get wiped out, if they still have money left over, the people who ran out of money and have to give up their houses and other assets at pennies on the dollar, well, people that still have money left over can buy those and ride it up. Or if you own a company or you have owned stocks, that's why I tell you guys, put your money in the market. Because even if the market crashes, keep buying, because when it goes back up, anybody in there is going to make money. People that have money are making more money than ever right now. It's just that the people that aren't making as much money at the same pace are being left behind because the cost of everything is going up so fast. They can't keep up. It's a fucked up system, but I'm not here to do that right now. Let's keep going. I'm almost, because I got to go take my kids. So personal spending is up, meaning credit card debt most likely going to be going up as well, okay? Then we've got the big one for the Fed, and that is your PCE. Now, we've heard about CPI. This is your Consumer Price Index. This is the cost that it costs. This is how much it costs you to buy something. And the PPI, which is the Producer Price Index, is how much it costs to make. So how much it costs businesses to make things and how much it costs you to buy things, right? And oftentimes they're very correlated, okay? Sometimes this will go up even though this is going down, but then we're going to get into the goddamn capitalism shit. But the Fed doesn't pay attention to these because you have two different types of CPI. You have your overall CPI and you have your core CPI, okay? And your core CPI is when you take out food, energy, and shelter and then look at it, because those fluctuate way more and they're also considered essentials and not. This can incorporate used car prices or airlines or whatever, and so it can fluctuate wildly. But PCE, this is the one that the Fed looks at. And PCE index was at 0.2%, which is in line with the previous 0.2%. However, the only bit of bad news we kind of had, or unstable news we had this week, is that year over year, PCE came in at 3.3% increase versus a 3% last year, which means the inflation was up 10%. Okay. Core PCE still at 4.2%. Okay, versus 4.1% a year ago. Still way above the Fed's target of 2%, and it's going the wrong direction. Okay? And then we had this morning, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. We had this morning. And this is the reason that we were happy in the morning, and then we thought that the market might sell off later in the day, but one of the reasons we thought that we would pop this morning, including Chinese stocks, which I already went on a fucking blackout about why I played XBEV. But here you go. Non-farm payrolls. Okay, we saw it come in at 187,000 jobs versus 170,000 expected, 157 previous, meaning we did see an uptick in those. But here's the big one, and this is the one. How could it be 0% but up 10%? 3.3% actual versus 3% previous. I want you to do some fucking numbers there. I don't want to do this to you in front of everybody. So I'm going to leave this here and let you figure out how it increased by 10% on your own. I get you a pencil and paper and a calculator if you need it, but I'm going to let you do this one on your own, buddy, cuz I feel like that's the best way to do this right now. Critical skills, okay? All right. Here's the big one. Unemployment rate. Well, Stocky, the labor market's up. There's all these people getting jobs and all this stuff. How that unemployment rate just went to 3.8%. That's up from 3.5%. U.S. hourly wages, increase of 0.2%, down from 0.4%. And hourly wages year over year, 4.3% increase, down from 4.4%. So, a few things to keep in mind here. The Fed doesn't necessarily want to see higher unemployment. They want to see a weaker job market, meaning less money being spent. And that either means wages stagnating or less people working. And since wages are taking forever, it kind of inevitable this is what they need. So the market kind of popped on this data this morning because this is kind of everything the Fed has been saying they want to see as a result of their increases. And all of this data that just came out leads me to believe that they are going to pause another month. But there was one little piece of data that I wanted to give you guys. And that was the U6 report that came out. I know some of y'all feel like you need to learn something in here every day, so I'm gonna give you this, okay? U3 versus the U7 unemployment. Okay, there should be another one like the U11 or some shit, but that doesn't count. The way that unemployment is accounted for is people that are out of work that are actively seeking work. Okay? So if you lose your job, you quit, you fire, and then you are on unemployment but actively looking for work, you count as unemployed. That is not all the people that are out of work. I'm not talking about people that are disabled, old, retired, or kids. No. You have about 180 million qualified workers for the working age people. So when you hear 1%, that's 1.8 million people out of work. Right? Working age, people that are they're considered workable. That's the wrong word. You know what I mean. Your mom's workable. All right. So at 3%, you're talking about just under 6 million people. But this only accounts for people that are out of work that are actively seeking for work. This does not count people who have left the workforce, have given up, and go on long-term unemployment. This does not count for one of the biggest things I think is out there that because of the rise of gig work, we'll never know the real number, and that is underemployed, okay, which is a big one here. Because underemployed can mean a lot of different things, but the idea of being underemployed means that like you could be working 20 hours a week, or you could be working 18 hours a week, you know, or you could be working as a you know fucking contractor that does, you know, some weeks you work this much, some you work that, you no guarantee. Okay, underemployed, and there's people that have 3 part-time jobs, so it counts as 3 jobs, but it's one person. So that's where your U7 comes in. That looks at people that are counted as employed. They don't fall under unemployment, but they don't count towards a actually fully employed person. Because also think about it this way. You could have somebody that goes from working at a hotel manager, right? $65,000 a year to a Uber Eats driver to make ends meet until they get another job. They're technically still employed, but they're significantly less of an impact on GDP. They're paying less taxes. They're buying less shit. They have less purchasing power. They're more a liability in terms of defaulting on credit and debt. So it changes the game. Technically, you're still employed, but you're underemployed or you're no longer at the same level. So it actually drops GDP too because you're making less and spending less. The U7 came out today, and it ticked up to, I believe, 7.3. But let me double check that. Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay. All right, here you go. So this morning, we got the U3, the regular unemployment rate, went from 3.5 to 3.8. But then we got the U7, and that has gone from 6.7 to 7.1%. That means 7.1% of everyone, okay? And when you're talking about almost 200 million people, it's almost 14 million that are considered unemployed, actually unemployed, like have given up looking for work, underemployed, or marginally attached to the workforce. Just start streaming, become self-employed, use your unprofitable business to write off food, housing, and expenses to travel. If you're streaming and you're unprofitable, you should probably get a different job. But yeah, I want to see how you do that and see how it works out. It might work 1 year. You could legitimately start your own LLC for $165, start streaming, and then expense everything related to your streaming. You could tie to it your haircuts, your computer, your games, your the space in your house. You could expense a lot. Your phone if you take calls or use Discord or watch your stream as your only view bot. You could do that, and you might. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you forget that standardized deductions are at $27,000 already if you're married? Good luck fucking itemizing all that shit up 20. If you is dumb. You know what? I'm not a CPA, but I would like to be your CPA. Can I please be your CPA? Because I will charge you $800 just to check the same boxes on fucking Intuit TurboTax or H&R Block or the free one from the IRS, and I'll be fine. Standardized deduction, no dependents, because obviously ain't nobody going to breed with your ass. Thank you. All right, moving on. 14 million people, underemployed, unemployed, stopped looking for work, marginally attached. This does not account for people that have left on disability, people who have retired early, okay? And people who have never been considered part of the workforce because they've never worked, right? So some of y'all are fucking 26, 27 years old, living at home with your parents, still never had a real job. So it could be as high as 20 million. And that's why when you hear unemployment rate, it's a fucking bullshit number. All of these numbers, and I'm not trying to be that guy, but all of these numbers are bullshit. Your inflation numbers, okay? Inflation. They say that this shit is at like 3.3%. Bullshit. This shit is between 8 and 18% depending on what sector you're looking at. But I can fudge these fucking numbers to make it very simple for you. Okay? I can make it very easy to make it look slower. All I got to do is just account for different things, right? Cheaper things, right? Like if I say, "Hey, I'm gonna, you know, like what's the average price for an escort in Las Vegas?" Well, I mean, if you're getting a good one, you know, you're talking, you know, about 600 to 1100, you know, good price. Oh, fuck. Now it's up. There's a big conference this weekend, and it's at 1,500 to 2,000. Well, fuck, I don't want to scare people away. We'll just get the ones that were previously like 80 to 300 that are now charging, you know, 500 to 800 and be like, well, here's your average. It's actually not doing so bad. Okay? I was going to use a different example, but I figured why? You know, that's something that's real to you. This is unreal to you. Okay? I can change the numbers and make it look that way. For example, I could say, like I said earlier, I could say that chicken, right? Chicken by the pound. Per pound. Right? Chicken per pound could be $11.99, up from $8.99 last year. So we've got inflation. We got a pretty high inflation. But that depends on where you're looking. I could just look at a cheaper cut of meat, or I could use, you know, for example, this could be theoretically boneless, skinless breast, and I just put it as chicken breast, and then now I can look at it as a worse cut of meat, or I could look at it as a bone-in. It's cheaper per the pound. You can mess with those numbers. I'm not saying that's exactly what they're doing, but those numbers are messed with. Unemployment numbers, the same thing. The government is not going to tell you the truth. It's not that I'm that guy who's out here like, the government's out to get you, boy. They coming for you. No, but the government is not incentivized to have its population upset or freaking out or scared, right? That's not how governments work. A government does not want its population to worry, because the more a population is worried, the more they turn their eyes on the people in charge. And if you are the people in charge, I don't care what you say in your campaign speech, you do not want everyone upset at you. Because you are the one who, whether it's because of people before you or your own policies, that are the one responsible for a lot of the different fiscal decisions and what led us to where we are, and you don't want that scrutiny. And if you think for 1 second that I am wrong about that, and you are a parent, you need to seek some kind of mental health treatment. You think I tell my kid the truth about everything? No. Why would I? Because I don't want to deal with that shit. I don't want them freaking out. I don't want them going nuts. I don't want them asking too many questions, and I don't want my life being more difficult. That's just how that works. Okay? I ain't saying that aliens are real or not real. I'll tell you what, though. If there was any incident of all the incidents that have ever happened that would make me scratch my head, it's that one that happened at that school in Africa. You don't get 60 different small kids separated to all give you tell you a story or ask them to explain what happened, and them all give you the same fucking story and draw the same pictures. That shit don't happen unless some shit happened. But long story short, whatever. But even if aliens were real, do you think the government's going to tell you? No, because they don't want you fucking panicking. You think the government's going to tell you that why do you think all the shit, and I'll give you an example. Why do you think it is that 20, 30, 40 years down the road, we find out about shit that the government knew about that didn't tell us? And they release the info? Because now it doesn't matter. Look at DDT. You ever seen the videos of what they were doing with this shit? They wanted to get rid of mosquitoes. So what'd they do? They drove these trucks up and down these neighborhoods with these big tankers on the back and these big blowers, and they blew this cloud of chemicals all up and down the neighborhoods. They even, for the propaganda, they had kids out playing in the yards as they blew this stuff to tell them how safe it was. It killed mosquitoes. That shit gave some people so many fucking medical complications and destruction. No, okay, real quick. I am not equating this to vaccines right now. Before y'all get started in chat, that's not where this conversation is going. Chill out, because I already saw one person going, so you're saying that the government won't tell me the truth? No, that's not what we're doing right now. And then your ass cheeks just burn. Take your pants off. Let's see those games. What do you want?